So, all right. Facebook and YouTube, and then Hrishi and Piyush. Jai, we're happy to be here again. Actually, this is the activity that makes us an actual ashram, or say education center. Is actually you guys doing the process of Shravan, and me doing the process of Kirtan right now in speaking Hari Katha. So this is a very important part of any ashram that we regularly, actually the verse we just did beforehand, the last time we were all together, it said, therefore with one pointed attention one should constantly hear about, glorify, remember, and worship the personality of Godhead, who is the protector of the devotees. So constantly with one pointed attention, meaning nothing else should be the focus. But we have to really assess our lives, and is that the reality? Or, you guys are both in a phase of life where you're students moving on and looking for work. But what are you going to find when you get work? Not what you're looking for. But if you are with one pointed attention, looking for the Supreme Personality of Godhead, work will come eventually. It comes by karma. It comes by Krishna's arrangement. Yes, Piyush.
So right now people are leaving, whom I know, slowly every day, okay? The close friends that I've made here. And it makes you more attached to the outside world than the service that you're doing here. So that's what I feel like. In weird ways, the Maya pulls you out, and it snaps out of your consciousness what things have been, what progress you are making. So I felt it, like I'm feeling that.
So this is.
And you have to come back, make yourself come back again.
Maya has an infinite amount of intricate ways she's going to tempt you. I mean, she's an agent of Krishna.
Also, like, it pulls you away. Like, you feel important for that. Oh, they are my friends.
Yeah. There's so many things. I mean, man, you would be shocked all the intricate ways that Maya will pull you away from. Because it's her job. She is the force behind the illusory energy, and most Prabhupada said this. Nobody is afraid enough of Maya as they should be. Everyone should be much more afraid of Maya, because she's always, actually in Bhagavad Ashraya, he always likes to quote this. Prabhupada, he calls her work the relentless onslaught of material nature. Relentless means it will not stop. An onslaught is she will just completely overpower and destroy everything. Yeah. So you have to always, like this verse says, with one pointed attention. What is the ekena manasa? The mind, one fixed in what? Shrotavya kirtitavya-scha, hearing and chanting about who? Bhagavan Sattvatam, the personality of Godhead, and the protector of the devotees. Well, Sattvatam Pati, the protector of the devotees. So, if you want protection from the relentless onslaught of Maya, this is the process. Always, constantly. And I guarantee you, and you don't even have to take my guarantee, the Bhagavatam is guaranteeing you all, that if you just, the Christians, they believe this wholeheartedly. There's a very popular verse, my dad quotes it all the time, and it's Matthew, I think 6, maybe 36, something like this. But it's seek ye first the kingdom of God, and all other things, those are the things everyone else wants, all the other things shall be added unto ye. And this is, seek ye first the kingdom of God and his righteousness, and all the other things shall be added unto ye. Yeah. But this is easy. This is universal spiritual knowledge, that if you understand that all of matter, even subtle matter, the mind, intelligence, and false ego, the thoughts you're looking for, everything is connected to spirit. If you fully and solely focus on spirit, all the other things that spirit derives, which are derivatives of spirit, like your body and mind and the circumstances of your life, will manifest accordingly. So Ayurveda follows this principle, I'll give you an example. We have gardening, right? And so when you garden and you're trying to prepare a beautiful creeper a beautiful plant, maybe a vegetable, maybe a tulsi plant. But if you let it in there, weeds grow next to the plant, it'll be a problem. So all these other things are like weeds. You're looking for that one pointed plant. I just want to grow my tulsi plant. But next thing you know, you have dandelions and all kinds of weeds. So when you pull a weed, I used to weed. Actually, this is how I became Krishna conscious. I was on a strawberry farm, and for hours upon hours a day, I would just crawl down a giant row of strawberries and just pull out weeds to protect the strawberry plants.
And you cannot use pesticides, something like that.
No, they still use pesticides, but this is what I did. I wish they were not using pesticides, but they still did use pesticides. But I always made sure I was far away when they were using pesticides. But still, you're in there, you're pulling it. So anyway, you pull the weeds, pull the weeds. But there's an art to pulling weeds. You don't just rip out anything. You have to pull from the bottom and make sure you get the root. And depending, we had a special tool if there was something like dandelions. It's strong roots. So if you don't get it out from the root,
it'll grow again.
Yeah, it'll grow again. Not only grow again, it'll grow in stronger, because the top isn't the main part of the plant, it's the root. So we have to be very careful. What is the root of our attachment to Maya? What is the root of our diseased condition? It has to be done from the root. The root of everything is spirit. Spirit is the root of all physicality and mentality. So everything is coming from spirit. So if we go to the root and nourish the root, and the things we're looking for will always be very easily attained. And this is Krishna's promise. So this is where we ended. Sutta Goswami is asked what the essence of life is essentially, and he's giving it. Just with one pointed attention, just constantly hear about, glorify, remember, and worship the personality of Godhead. And yes, there will be others who come into your experience. It's not like, we'll just throw away all your friends. No more material relationships. Throw away your job. Don't worry about this thing. No, we're not telling you to do that. But what we are telling you to do is, in your friend groups, in your work, in everything that you do, be one pointed not just aware. What's the root of why you're doing this? This should be serving your ability to constantly hear about, glorify, remember, and worship the personality of Godhead.
Questions in the book as well.
What's that?
Be of service and be aware of what you're doing.
Yeah, so that should always be coloring why we do what you're doing. Why are you working? You're working to hopefully not only support yourself, support what kind of lifestyle? A lifestyle where you can hear about, glorify, remember, and worship the personality of Godhead. What are all those things? This is the process of bhakti, the most important part of bhakti. The first 3 limbs: Shravanam, Kirtanam, Vishnu, Smaranam. So this is why you should be doing everything that you're doing. And then, say you're working. You can extend that to others. Okay, a wife. Let me help support a life for you. Now you could also do, you can hear about, glorify, remember, and worship the Lord. Okay, children. Okay, you guys. Okay, the greater community. Maybe there's a local center. Here's a small donation so you guys can continue hearing about, glorifying, remembering, worshiping the personality of Godhead. This is the meaning of life. Life is meant for bhajan, which is like your worship. This is what life is meant for. Life is not meant for sense gratification. Life is not meant to just manipulate. And there's different forms of sense gratification. There's the obvious senses. There's the eyes, the ears, the tongue, the nose, the smelling, and the skin, the touching. Okay, but there are mental senses too. There are mental, gratifications of the mind, gratifications of the intelligence, ultimately stemming from what? The gratifications of the false ego, thinking that you are this mind and body complex. So anyway, that's where we left off. So, with one pointed attention, let's move forward. But before we begin with the new session here, I'm going to ask that Piyush, you find the prayers here, the Om Jnana prayers to the gurus. Also, let me share the screen because I didn't share that screen. I believe. Yeah, I did not. So.
You did it wrong? Oh, sorry.
So, let's chant the prayers to the gurus and seek their blessings and try and understand this knowledge. Om Jnana Timirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshusvalitam Tasmai Shri Gurave Namah Shri Chaitanya Stavitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Swapadantikam Deham Shri Guru Shri Yudpada Kamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavam Cha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sagana Raghunatha Navitam Tam Sajivanam Sadvaitam Sadhutam Parijayana Saitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radhika Krishna Padan Sagana Lalita Shri Vishankavamsha He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dena Bandhu Jagatpate Gopisha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namosute Pancha Gaurangi Radhe Vrindaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranami Hari Priye Pancha Kaltarubhyascha Greba Sandurvyevacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnevyo Namo Namah Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasati Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Namo Vishnupadaya Krishna Pritaya Bhutale Srimade Bhakti Siddhanta Swami Namaste Saraswati Devi Gaurvani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Shitarine Bhagavate Vasudevaya Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Actually, these verses are coming up. We might even get to them today. Which one was that? I'll just say it. Before reciting the Srimad Bhagavatam, which is the very means of conquest, one should offer their respectful obeisances unto the Supreme Personality of Godhead Narayan, unto Narayan Rishi, the supremest human being, unto Mother Saraswati, the goddess of learning, and unto Srila Vyasadeva, the author. Srinivadam Saptam Krishna Punya Shavna Kirtana Hridayanta Suvardhani Modi Jvaistam. Shri Krishna, the personality of Godhead, who is the Paramatma in everyone's heart and the benefactor of the truthful devotee, cleanses desires for material enjoyment from the heart of the devotee,
who has developed the urge to hear his messages, which are in themselves virtuous when properly heard and chanted.
Beautiful. We're actually gonna maybe get to that verse today. It's verse 17, and then this one's verse 18. We're on verse 15, so it's possible.
नाष्टप्रयेषु भद्रेषु नित्यं भगवत् सेवया भागवते उत्तमा श्लोके भक्तिर्भावति नैष्टिकी.
By regular attendance in the classes of Bhagavatam and by rendering service to pure devotees, all that is troublesome to the heart is almost completely destroyed, and loving service unto personality of Godhead, who is praised with transcendental songs, is established as an irrevocable fact.
So, all right, let us continue our reading in one pointed. You know what? We actually read 15.
Yeah.
This is because we talked about how this analogy with sword in hand, intelligent men cut through the binding knots of reactionary work or karma by remembering the personality of Godhead. Therefore, who will not pay attention to his message? So we did read this. It means on YouTube I labeled the class wrong where we started, but that's okay. We'll start on 16. So, here we go. How are we going to be ultimately removed from our knots of karma? You were mentioning, Piyush, about you're seeing old friend groups. You've established karma with all these people, and you're finding, it's so easy when you go back into these karmically bound relationships, and we have so many, especially with family and relatives. It's like so tight, the karma. But how do you cut through these binding knots of karma? Not just your relationships, but all the karma you've accumulated, all the decisions you've made that are in past lives and in this life that have now surmounted to be the experience that you're having. Remembering the personality of Godhead. And also you can, these relationships now, you can establish them. Like my wife has her grandmother staying right up there. Here. And, we're always trying to figure out how can we have this relationship. Love is there. Karma is established. But how can we have this relationship in such a way that, one, we won't get bound, they won't get bound, but ultimately we can actually really benefit the other. What's going to really benefit the other? It's not, maybe feeding them. Food that you offer to the Lord, that's a good ideal. But what's really helping them is that you give them the opportunity to hear about, glorify and remember and worship the personality of Godhead. That's what the main essence of what is ultimately going to be everybody's benefit. That should be the focus, the ekena manasa, the mind's one-pointed focus. This is the conclusion of Bhagavatam. This is the conclusion of the great sages, the conclusion of the Vedas. One-pointed focus. This is the conclusion of every religion. One-pointed focus unto the Supreme Personality of Godhead. The one-pointed focus unto God. So, this is what's going to cut through so much reactions. So now you have your friends. Both of you, I think Rishi, you're staying with some old friends. You guys are back in town. And Piyush also, you kind of just left your old friend group, and now you're trying to take on something new that you think will help you. But it doesn't mean you leave them behind. I'm sharing with hundreds, maybe thousands of old friends. That's most of what my Facebook is. But, I would be harming them if I were to just riff-raff with them about, hey, what happened you guys love cricket, so I always use cricket as an analogy. But if a riff-raff, did you see the baseball game or the basketball game or things that are temporary and don't matter? Oh, well, look at the politicians are doing. You see, Trump got his ears shut. Or on the conspiracy side, do you think maybe he set it up for better ratings? Anything, But this is not worth bringing anything. You're not doing anyone any good by talking of these subject matters. What is ultimately, but we have to be a little tactful. Not many people are just going to appreciate you saying, my wife's grandmother's up there. Like maybe you have to surrender into the Supreme Personality of Godhead Krishna, or no relationship will be there. No, this is we have to be tactful, So maybe you see, well, what are they interested in? Okay, she believes very heavily in Christianity. So what is Jesus saying that would help get her closer to this message? He says many things, actually. I always am talking about Jesus with Christian brethren. Prabhupada, this morning I was listening, some man, because when you don't understand something, you can feel very threatened by it. So oftentimes Christians are very threatened by Krishna consciousness.
I think it's mostly with most monotheistic religions, because they have to preserve the entitlement that comes with the identifying with the Supreme, and it comes with that. Because
it's a part of, definitely, there's a fear, we're like, I can't be wrong, we can't be wrong. Yes. But they might, what I find is not many people can see how maybe everybody has a certain element of being right,
and that's how Bhagavatam also in terms of way, or life of Krishna in terms of it teaches us that imperfections is seen from the eyes of others, but Lord doesn't have imperfections. So you don't have to protect Lord, you have to protect your thinking, how you see Him mostly. So when Christians or Muslims get offended and get scared or get angry when something is being said, that means your thinking of Him is not clear. Krishna has done so many pastimes that any malign comment that you can make on Him is already made, and He has done through His leelas. He has explained it. It's meaningless. My character does not define by my actions but my intentions, and so whatever you say will not be offensive to Krishna in a way. But
you could totally offend.
That makes you more tolerant of and more comfortable with the deity or to the Lord that you are serving, and you will be more confident in that. And that is the problem, I guess, because they don't have much pastimes and.
There's not much information at all about God, actually, in most traditions. But still there's many good things, and we should encourage them even in their own traditions.
True.
Prabhupada, some Christian was going back and forth with him, and he says, "Do you think you're like Jesus?" And he's like, "No, I'm not like Jesus. I'm a servant of Jesus." And he's like, "I don't have the power of Jesus." And the Christian man was actually quite a little arrogant. He said, "Well, I have the power of Jesus because I'm a Christian." And Prabhupada laughed and he said, "That's all right. You are a Christian and we are Christian. There's really not much difference at all." And everyone thought it was a very nice quip. And everyone was like laughing and clapping and like this. And the Christian man was pacified. Because Prabhupada, he has such a wit to him that he could take criticism and actually turn it around in such a way that the person who criticizes, they feel like he didn't do it intentionally, but they feel foolish, like I should not have said like this. But anyway, we have to read a verse because we're running out of time. We haven't read one verse yet. So Shushrusho Shradhadanasya Vasudeva Katharuchi Shanmahat Sevaya Vipraha Punyatirtha Nishevana Shushrusho, one who is engaged in hearing. Shradhadanasya, with care and attention. Vasudeva, in respect to Vasudeva. Katha, the message. Ruchi, affinity. Sha, is made possible. Mahat Sevaya, by service rendered to pure devotees. Vipraha, oh, twice born. Punyatirtha, those who are cleansed of all vice. Nishevana, by service. Translation. O twice-born sages, by serving those devotees who are completely freed from all vice, great service is done. By such service, one gains affinity for hearing the messages of Vasudeva. So this is actually, we'll read the purport. Prabhupada is saying, the conditioned life of a living being is caused by his revolting against the Lord. There are men called Deva, or godly living beings, and there are men called Asuras, or demons, who are against the authority of the Supreme Lord. Demon does not mean fangs and horns, like a lot of the kind of mythology of what demons are, or even theology from the Judeo-Christian lens. But demons are those who are against the authority of the Supreme Lord. Most of us start life as demons. We're born into demonic mentality and family. At least I know I was. I'm not saying my family is demonic, but I'm saying I was quite demonic, and the tendency, even in a religion, you could be very much demonic. In the Bhagavad Gita, 16th chapter, a vivid description of the Asuras is given, in which it is said that the Asuras are put into lower and lower states of ignorance, life after life, and so sink to the lower animal forms and have no information of the absolute truth, the personality of Godhead. These Asuras are gradually rectified to God consciousness by the mercy of the Lord's liberated servitors in different countries, according to the supreme will. Such devotees of God are very confidential associates of the Lord, and when they come to save human society from the dangers of godlessness, they are known as the powerful incarnations of the Lord. As sons of the Lord, he's giving a shout out to the Christian view here about Jesus. As servants of the Lord, or as associates of the Lord, but none of them falsely claim to be God themselves. This is a blasphemy declared by the Asuras, and the demoniac followers of such Asuras also accept pretenders as God or his incarnation. In the revealed scriptures, there is definite information of the incarnation of God. No one should be accepted as God or an incarnation of God unless he is confirmed by the revealed scriptures. The servants of God are to be respected as God by the devotees who actually want to go back to Godhead. Such servants of God are called Mahatmas or Tirthas, and they preach according to particular time and place. The servants of God urge people to become devotees to the Lord. They never tolerate being called God. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was God himself, according to the indication of the revealed scriptures, but he played the part of a devotee. People who knew him to be God addressed him as God, but he used to block his ears with his hands and chant the name of Lord Vishnu. He strongly protested against being called God, although undoubtedly he was God himself. The Lord behaves so to warn us against unscrupulous men who take pleasure in being addressed as God. There's this one guru, or you could call him that, out of Vrindavan. He goes by Vishwananda. He has everyone convinced that he is like the latest incarnation of Krishna. And there's huge, I swear, we even met devotees within an hour of here, so that are following his lineage, and they follow him very wholeheartedly. And then they say he is an incarnation, he is an incarnation. But yet he really does nothing.
He was, right? He passed away?
No, he's still alive. He's getting worshipped. You go to any shop in Vrindavan, you see all kinds of Krishna on the wall, this on the wall, but then he's on the wall somewhere. I'm like,
Right now,
what?
Premanand Maharaj is also very prominent in India.
He's not claiming to be God.
Yeah, but he is very prominent. Like people are having a lot of ruchi in him.
Yeah, there's many different, the people at large are looking to be cheated. So there always will be somebody who, they want a very cheap and easy connection. So there always will be somebody who can attract many with all kinds of messages.
This person.
Yeah, I've heard him.
He's very.
He's giving a bona fide.
Yeah, if he's bona fide, great. Yeah, but this is, Prabhupada is saying, what is bona fide? What is it? They're speaking by the scriptures, and they're speaking, I'm a messenger of God, and we're not claiming to be God.
Yes.
Now, even if God comes himself, like Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he's saying this is not tasteful to claim he is God. So he did not claim he was God. Only very, very confidential associates were able to pull out of him that he is indeed God. But he would never, ever speak that to the public. It's blasphemous. So anyway, like this, the Lord behaves so to warn us against unscrupulous men who take pleasure in being addressed as God. Then the Mayavadis, many schools, they say, oh, we're all God. And they call each other Narayan. They love being called, God, you're God. But especially I like when you call me God. This is the tendency. But this is blasphemous and nonsense. The servants of God come to propagate God consciousness, and intelligent people should cooperate with them in every respect. By serving the servant of God, one can please God more than by directly serving the Lord. This is the secret. The Lord is more pleased when he sees that his servants are properly respected, because such servants risk everything for the service of the Lord, and so are very dear to the Lord. The Lord declares in the Bhagavad Gita 18:69 that no one is dearer to him. Remember, we talked about this verse on Saturday. I don't know if you remember. No one is dearer to him than one who risks everything to preach his glory. By serving the servants of the Lord, one gradually gets the quality of such servants, and thus one becomes qualified to hear the glories of God. The eagerness to hear about God is the first qualification of a devotee eligible for entering the kingdom of God. So you may ask the question, all right, you keep telling me to hear about, glorify, remember, and worship the Lord, but I have no attraction for it. I'd rather, do this thing, that thing, and the other thing, that's really of the material nature. Well, how do you get attraction for it? This is the secret. Serve the pure devotees. Just try and render, everyone can render some service. Actually, and this is also the secret when dealing with others. How can I help this person? Engage them in seva somehow. Engage them in service. That's why I love, I'll give you an example of how I tried to engage. My father and mother visited last weekend, and I was so behind in my chanting. I'm never going to chant any rounds. But my dad is a bus driver, so we had that whole big van, and we were taking them down to Ithaca. So I was like, Dad, you're such a good driver, blah blah blah. Like I'm actually was so tired. I also needed to sleep a little bit. I was like, please drive this. So I made sure I engaged him in as much service as possible. And then actually what ended up happening is the next day, he was having a very profound conversation with Bhagavad Ashraya. And it was an amazing conversation, and I was just looking from the outside, and Bhagavad Ashraya was so chalked up with emotion. There were tears coming from his eyes, and my dad is actually getting to have such a glorious, and he's hearing about his life experiences in relationship with the Lord, and I was so happy because I don't have the relationship with my dad where I can speak like that, but Bhagavad Ashraya, he's his senior, so my dad had to take like a submissive junior type position to hear this type of story.
Like pals, driving, the fist bumping, making jokes around.
Yeah, it was so nice.
It was so delightful watching them sitting in front and having that conversation or having fun while driving. So it was like very good.
Yeah.
Enjoying the beautiful scenery and everything.
Yeah, but this is the secret of how he actually got that opportunity is what he did service first. He rendered some service. He did service by coming up and visiting me. Yeah, and you're building this sukriti. So this is very important. We should always try and do service to serve those devotees who are completely freed from all vice. And it's not easy. And if you guys just render me service, I have vices, so you'll fall very short. But you should try and find a devotee who's completely freed from all vice. And by such service, you'll gain the affinity for hearing the messages of Vasudeva. And that's what the one who's freed from all vice is always giving the messages of Vasudeva. So you render them some service, they want to share these messages of Vasudeva with you. It's natural. If someone renders you service, you immediately go, how can I serve them? What's the ultimate service? The messages of Krishna. So this is the ultimate way we can serve anybody. So your friends and everyone, try and engage them in service. Bring them to a temple, a program. Maybe they don't want that, some way. Hey, you should check out this book. Something. Engage them in some form of service in some way. Well, here we go. We made it now. Ready?
Yep.
Next verse. Shrinvatam svakata Krishna.
Shrimvatam svakata Krishna.
Punya Shravana Kirtana.
Punya Shravana Kirtana.
Vidyantastohya Badrani.
Vidasto Badrani.
Vidhunoti Suhritsatam.
Vidhunoti Suhishitam.
Shrinvatam. Those who have developed the urge to hear the message of.
Those who have developed the urge to hear the messages of.
Svakata.
Swakataha.
His own words. Krishna. The personality of Godhead. Punya. Virtues. Shravana. Kirtana. Hearing.
Hearing.
Kirtanaha.
Kirtanaha.
Chanting.
Chanting.
Hridayantastaha.
Hridayantastaha.
Within one's heart.
Within one's heart.
He.
He.
Certainly. Abhadrani.
Abhadrani.
Desire to enjoy matter.
Desire to enjoy matter.
Vidhunoti.
Vidunoti.
Cleanses.
Cleanses.
Suhrit.
Suhrit.
Benefactor.
Benefactor.
Satam.
Satam.
Of the truthful.
Of the truthful.
Translation. Sri Krishna, the personality of Godhead, who is the Paramatma, the super soul in everyone's heart, and the benefactor of the truthful devotee, cleanses desire for material enjoyment from the heart of the devotee, who has developed the urge to hear his messages, which are in themselves virtuous when properly heard and chanted. And purport. Prabhupada is saying, messages of the personality of Godhead, Sri Krishna, are non-different from him. Whenever, therefore, offenseless hearing and glorification of God are undertaken, it is to be understood that Lord Krishna is present there in the form of transcendental sound, which is as powerful as the Lord personally. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu in his Shikshastika declares clearly that the holy name of the Lord has all the potencies of the Lord, and that he has endowed his innumerable names with the same potency. There is no rigid fixture of time, and anyone can chant the holy name with attention and reverence at his convenience. The Lord is so kind to us that he can be present before us personally in the form of transcendental sound. But unfortunately, we have no taste for hearing and glorifying the Lord's name and activities. This is the problem, as mentioned. We have already discussed developing a taste for hearing and chanting the holy sound, which was through service. It is done through the medium of service to the pure devotee of the Lord. The Lord is reciprocally respondent to his devotees. When he sees that a devotee is completely sincere in getting admittance to the transcendental servants of the Lord, and has thus become eager to hear about him, the Lord acts from within. That doesn't make sense to me. Acts from within the devotee in such a way, that the devotee may easily go back to him. The Lord is more anxious to take us back into his kingdom than we can desire. Most of us do not desire at all to go back to Godhead. Only a very few men want to go back to Godhead. But anyone who desires to go back to Godhead, Sri Krishna helps in all respects. One cannot enter the kingdom of God unless one is perfectly cleared of all sins. The material sins are products of our desires to lord it over material nature. It is very difficult to get rid of such desires. Women and wealth are very difficult problems for the devotee making progress on the path to God, back to Godhead. Many stalwarts in the devotional line fell victim to these allurements and thus retreated from the path of liberation. But when one is helped by the Lord himself, the whole process becomes as easy as anything by the divine grace of the Lord. To become restless in the contact of women and wealth is not an astonishment. Now, you could see Prabhupada is speaking mostly to men here. But for women, this message would be the same, but it would be for association with men and wealth. So to become restless in the contact of women and wealth is not an astonishment, because every living being is associated with such things from remote time, practically immemorial, and it takes time to recover from this foreign nature. But if one is engaged in hearing the glories of the Lord, gradually he realizes his real position. By the grace of God, such a devotee gets sufficient strength to defend himself from the state of disturbances, and gradually all disturbing elements are eliminated from his mind. So this is our process. He cleanses desire from material enjoyment, which is our vices. These are our vices. How? When we have developed the urge to hear his messages. How do you develop the urge to hear his messages? It was just mentioned previously. Serve who?
Serve the pure devotees.
Serve the pure devotees.
Yeah.
That's right. Serve those who are beyond all vice. So this is how we will develop the urge to hear his messages. And the messages are in themselves virtuous when we properly hear and chant them. So we have to, and Krishna will help us from within. He'll let us know, ooh, this person is pure, we should serve them. He'll indicate to us, he'll give us realization. And ultimately, you guys have already done this because you have some urge to hear the messages of Godhead, or you wouldn't literally be sitting here right now hearing the messages of Godhead. So you already have taken to this process, so continue. Keep serving the purest devotees you can find. It's not easy to find a pure devotee. It's very difficult, actually. It's so rare. So you serve the purest devotees that you can find. Probably will come at your local center. And then from there, hopefully they invite pure devotees to come and you get to hear from them regularly. But this should be the one pointed focus. Okay, I have to make advancement towards Godhead. How do I do this? I have to regularly hear, chant, worship, remember the Lord. Okay, but I have no attraction to them. What do I do? Okay, well, who is doing this thing? Devotees. Let me try and serve them. Who's the purest devotee I can find? Let me render as much service as I can to that devotee. Hopefully you find a very pure devotee and he can actually even act as a guru to you. There's Shiksha gurus, there's Vartma Pradarshika guru who introduces you to this. And then ultimately, maybe you'll take a Diksha guru and formally get initiated at one point. But that's not even... the main thing is the service of the pure devotees. And then, naturally, you'll have this urge to hear his messages. And then your own desires for material enjoyment will be cleansed. Little by little. It's gradual. It's not overnight. Oh, we think sometimes, oh, I'm so fallen, I have so much nonsense desire, so I can't, I'm not, no, this will work on anybody. There's two sides of the false ego. The one false ego says, I'm so great, look at me, look at me, look at me. You know, this craving for distinguishment, you know, it could be from anywhere, and this is strong. You know, it's just like, recognize me, look at me, look at me. This is the ultimate symptom of the false ego. But the other side is saying, oh, well, I'm so fallen, I'm so fallen, I'm so fallen. It's another side of, look at me, look at me, look at me. But instead of how great I am, look at how fallen I am. Look at, you know, it's a same side of, it's the opposite side of the same coin. Still so much false ego. We should trust that the Lord, He can cleanse anything and anyone, and we are no different than anyone. And if we take to this process, we can become just as great an opportunity as anyone else. Yes, it's healthy to feel that we're unfortunate and we haven't made much advancement. That's healthy. But don't ever think, oh, I'm the most fallen. It'll never work for me. It'll work for everyone else, but it can never work for me. No, you are just as eligible as anyone else. And you're both very eligible, and anyone maybe who is even listening online, you would also be quite eligible because you already have an attraction to hear the messages of Godhead, or you wouldn't sit through it. So, yeah, like this. Let's do... Devi, how are we doing on the prasad?
In 5 minutes.
Okay, let's read one more verse.
Yeah, eating.
Yes, the other verse we always chant. Nashtaprayeshva badreshu
Nashtaprayesu abhadresu
Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya
Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya
Bhagavati Uttama Shloke
Bhagavati Uttama Shloka
Bhaktir Bhavati Naishtaki
Bhaktir Bhavati Nashtaki
Nashta, destroyed.
Destroyed
Prayeshu,
Prayeshu
almost to nil, almost to nothing. Abhadreshu,
Abhadresu
all that is inauspicious.
all that is inauspicious.
Nityam,
Nityam
regularly.
regularly
Bhagavata,
Bhagavata
Srimad Bhagavatam,
Srimad
or the
Bhagavatam.
pure devotee. Also, Nitya is like eternally, so that would make sense for regularly. Sevaya,
Sevaya
by serving.
by serving
Bhagavati,
Bhagavati
unto the personality of Godhead.
unto the personality of God.
Uttama,
Uttama
transcendental.
transcendental
Shloke,
Shloke
prayers.
prayers
Bhakti,
Bhakti,
loving service.
loving service.
Bhavati,
Bhavat
comes into being.
comes into being.
Naishtiki,
Naishtiki
irrevocable.
irrevocable.
By regular attendance in classes on the Bhagavatam, or by regular hearing of the Bhagavatam, actually by regular service of the Bhagavatam, but there's two different types of Bhagavatam, and by rendering of service to the pure devotee, all that is troublesome to the heart is almost completely destroyed. So Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya, eternal service to the Bhagavat. And there's two types of Bhagavats. There's the book Bhagavat that you're both holding and reading right now, and then there's the person Bhagavat, the pure devotee. So by serving both of them, by regularly hearing and reciting the book Bhagavat, and by service to the person Bhagavat, all that is troublesome to the heart is almost completely destroyed. It goes almost down to nothing just by doing those two things. Regular service, you want to serve the Bhagavatam. So that would mean attending classes in the Bhagavatam, hearing, or maybe giving classes in the Bhagavatam. That's now a role I'm trying to hopefully take in as humble a position as I can. So everything that's troublesome in the heart completely destroyed, and loving service unto the personality of Godhead, who's praised with transcendental songs. I like that's added in there. Is established as an irrevocable fact. So all your troubles will go away, and what rises up in its place, the greatest gift that we could ever have, it's like real divine love for Krishna and from Krishna. You're feeling this exchange of prem, and this is what we're all looking for. So, purport. Here is the remedy for eliminating all inauspicious things within the heart, which are considered to be obstacles in the path of self-realization. The remedy is the association of the Bhagavats. There are two types of Bhagavats, namely the book Bhagavat and the devotee Bhagavat. Both the Bhagavats are competent remedies, and both of them, or either of them, can be good enough to eliminate the obstacles. So don't feel like, oh, well, I don't know a person Bhagavat, I'm screwed. Nope, you have the book Bhagavat. Either of them will be good enough to eliminate the obstacles. A devotee Bhagavat is as good as the book Bhagavat because the devotee Bhagavat leads his life in terms of the book Bhagavat, and the book Bhagavat is full of information about the personality of Godhead and his pure devotees, who are also Bhagavats. Bhagavat book and person are identical. The devotee Bhagavat is a direct representative of Bhagavan, the personality of Godhead. So by pleasing the devotee Bhagavat, one can receive the benefit of the book Bhagavat. I've seen this in my life. There's a boy in our, Michael. So Michael, I'm always shocked. I'm like, how the heck did you get this type of faith? He made so much advancement, and he had his dad, but him and his dad would do, they would just read books. They weren't really like doing much else other than reading books. But just by reading the books, he made so much advancement, and now he's in our sangha, and he's regular, and he's doing so much service. But I actually am watching this boy, and actually myself, I didn't make any contact with devotees. Actually, I grew up in a very rural town. It's like almost impossible for me to make contact in devotees in the town that I was in. And there probably will not be any devotees in that town for a very long time, unless something really mystical and wonderful happens that devotees spread all over the world. But it's one of the last places that'll get devotees probably. But somehow or other, a book went to that town, and I read the book, and I finished the whole Gita, and I finished the Krishna book, and I made. So when I did finally get to the temple, all these people were shocked. Like, how do you know this? How do you do it? Why are you doing this like this? I didn't realize it, but I was able to make so much advancement just by reading the books. Just by reading, because why? The book Bhagavat and the person Bhagavat are non-different. I didn't even need the physical service of the person Bhagavat or a guru at that time. Why? Because I was reading the books. I was doing service to the Bhagavats already. And you could do service. Maybe you don't have a guru. You both, at this point, Hrishi, you actually are aspiring. You feel like you have met that person Bhagavat and you're ready. And that's wonderful, actually. But still, serve the book Bhagavat. Your guru is not here, then serve the book Bhagavat. And then, hear from your guru as well, the person Bhagavat as well. Piyush, the guru has not appeared yet. Read the book Bhagavat. Same services there. They're identical, actually. And I see this, with this boy Michael. I also see, so much similarity to what happened to me just by reading the books. Sincerely, one just makes tremendous advancement. And I see that sometimes people will come here and serve for a very long time. They have a very seva incline. One, because we're not person Bhagavats. But just by someone who sits and reads books, that person can make so much more advancement. Because it's really not who washed more dishes, or who cleaned the floors more, or anything like that. No, it's who did more service to the Bhagavat. So what's that mean? That might mean washing the dishes for the person Bhagavat. It might mean cleaning the temple for the person Bhagavat. Yes. But what about the book Bhagavat? The very message that person is representing, the very message that person is sharing. Did we hear that? Did we do service to that Bhagavat? That's the secret, right there. The devotee Bhagavat is a direct representative of Bhagavan, the personality of Godhead. So by pleasing the devotee Bhagavat, one can receive the benefit of the book Bhagavat. Human reason fails to understand how by serving the devotee Bhagavat or the book Bhagavat, one gets gradual promotion on the path of devotion. But actually these are facts explained by Srila Narada Dev, who happened to be a maidservant's son in his previous life. The maidservant was engaged in the menial service of the sages, and thus he also came into contact with them. And simply by associating with them and accepting the remnants of foodstuff left by the sages, the son of the maidservant got the chance to become the great devotee and personality, Srila Narada Dev. These are the miraculous effects of the association of the Bhagavats. Also, don't downplay the person Bhagavat. If you do get a chance to render some service to the person Bhagavat, incredible fortune is yours. Narad was a small boy who just did some service for these person Bhagavats who passed through his town. And his mother was serving them, and he was a small boy, and he would also help her serve them. And one day he would hear their messages from afar and things like that, but he asked if he can have some of the remnants of the foodstuff of them. And he ate the remnants of what they had left over on their plate. And just by that alone, and then they left, and he didn't really, but just by that alone, he actually, he went on a wonderful journey and had a direct meditation, a darshan of Narayan in his meditation. And he got to be Narada in the next universal creation, who's like the great guru sage from which we're all getting so much knowledge from. So this is, you should try and do both. The book Bhagavat eventually should teach you that, all right, I have to find person Bhagavat and serve them. Render service to these person Bhagavats. These are the miraculous effects of the association of Bhagavats. Bhagavat. And to understand these effects practically, it should be noted that by such sincere association of the Bhagavats, one is sure to receive transcendental knowledge very easily, with the result that becomes fixed in the devotional service of the Lord. The more progress is made in devotional service under the guidance of the Bhagavats, the more one becomes fixed in the transcendental, loving service of the Lord. The message of the book Bhagavat therefore have to be received from the devotee Bhagavat, and the combination of these two Bhagavats will help the neophyte devotee to make progress on and on. So, Bhaktivinoda Thakur, these two are very popular because we recite them before our Bhagavatam class. But Bhaktivinoda Thakur also includes the next verse, and this is like the conclusion to these two verses. But we'll get there next time. So, kind of just to sum up today, we should try and hear as much as possible. How do we develop an attraction? Try and serve the devotees who are free from vice, who carry this message. And ultimately, what will it do? It'll cleanse your heart of material enjoyment. It'll remove all types of troubles in your heart, and love for God, the jewel we're all looking for, love to and from God, will be present. And ultimately, this is done by service to the Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya, eternal service to the Bhagavats. We should be regularly, as much as possible, serving the Bhagavat. That means reading book Bhagavatam regularly. That also means doing service to the Bhagavats. And that service could look like, okay, my guru he wants Krishna consciousness to go all over the world. Let me tell my neighbor about, Krishna consciousness. Or let me tell my neighbor about Bhagavat knowledge. Or let me go and support the local center trying to share this Bhagavat knowledge. Wherever you are, wherever you find yourself. Rishi, you're thinking Austin. Piyush, who knows where you're thinking you'll go. So anyway, or online, wherever you are. So this is the secret. Render service to the Bhagavat. If you don't have a person Bhagavat, you don't know what that looks like, read the book Bhagavat. It'll explain exactly what that looks like. And you'll render service to Srila Prabhupada's message. He was the person Bhagavat, so you're rendering him personal service by hearing his message, or hearing Krishna's message. We'll end there. Very good. I'm very inspired. Even if I was speaking to nobody, I would get great excitement and happiness just by doing this, because it's very enlivening to me to hear these messages and to be able to share them to some degree, and to share some of the realizations I've had now that I've been doing this a little bit of time, to share some of the realizations that I've had personally, and even to reflect on them, even to introspect on them, is so beneficial for me. And you guys being recipients of service, you help draw it out of me, because I can somehow or other be reminded of how this has helped me just by seeing you guys and being somewhat eager to serve in some way. So thank you guys online as well, but especially you guys here live. I wish you all kinds of service, Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya, or eternal service to the Bhagavats, and both book and person. And until next time. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.